As most of you know, Kenny is on leave, and so I've sort of stepped into his shoes for this session and the showcase session on Friday. I think I know everybody here apart from you. My name's Andrew Larmour. I'm a solution architect with Digit Systems. So I'll be sort of taking over from Kenny from here on in for the remainder of the week. So today, what we want to go through are the there it is. Quick timeline of the proof of concept, what we've covered thus far, and the remaining parts within the Inomial POC. The billing scenario. So I'll step you through a graphical representation of the what we're going to show you today, and then we'll actually jump straight into the demo. So not a lot of slides to go through. Shouldn't take us very long. So within... Are you recording the Zoom thing? I am. Yep. So within the POC timeline, we're at day 8 now. Demonstration of Scenario 4. Our intent was to run Scenario 3 as well today, but we prefer to hold that off until Friday, just because we're in the process of loading up about 2 million records at the moment, and we want to give you a more complete and thorough demonstration of Scenario 3, which is focused on performance and doing a bill run and things like that. So because we're midway through that loading process, we'll leave that, and that will be complete by Friday, and then we can share that on Friday. Okay. All right. So you've seen this slide before in Kenny's charts. The only real difference here is just an indication of progression in the demonstration scenarios. So Scenario 3 is complete, but like I said, we want to hold that off until we've got a more thorough demonstration of that. Scenario 4, I'll be showing you today in conjunction with my colleagues here, Brian and Sam, who are going to help out with a couple of bits of the demonstration. And then the remaining scenario, or the remaining requirements within the POC, really come down to the performance report, and I believe Kenny's already spoken to you about that, and we plan to deliver a thorough performance report to you by the end of next week. Any questions?
So far so good.
So okay, good-o. Right, so the demo scenario, the first part of this demonstration is actually the same as we saw within the Telflow POC demo, because we're submitting an order from the digital front end to Telflow. Telflow will then fulfill that order, so it's communicating with the EOMSys stub and with NBN directly to set up the appointment for the NBN installation. At the completion of the fulfillment, Telflow will then notify Inomial that the order is complete and fulfilled, and you can start billing now. That will set up a subscription within Inomial billing, and Inomial will send a response back to Telflow saying billing is ready. At that point, it's not on this chart, and I'll show you through the demo that. But at that point, Telflow will also emit a order complete message. So any other interested systems, such as a CRM system or the digital front end, that want to be notified when the order is complete, will be able to subscribe to that message, and so they can, the CRM system can be updated through that mechanism. So that's basically the same as what we had done within the Telflow POC. What's new is this usage meter. So depending on whether a subscriber has breached a policy through excessive usage or non-payment of bill or for whatever reason, Inomial will send a shaping request down to Telflow. So it's coming from Inomial billing to Telflow. Telflow, in a real-world environment, would actually then communicate off with EonSys to initiate the shaping on that particular service, get a response back from EonSys, and then send a response back to Inomial billing. What we're going to see today is within the Inomial billing user interface, we'll see that that particular service has breached its policy conditions. So the way we're going to simulate that is we're going to set up a billing run for that particular service that we've just ordered, and then backdate the due date for the invoice, and that will immediately put them into breach and initiate a shape request down to Telflow. So that's how we're going to go about initiating the shaping request from Inomial to Telflow. Any questions? Okay. The other thing, as I said before, the only other thing that's not on this diagram, which we're actually doing as well, is at the conclusion of the shaping, or once we've done the shaping request, Telflow will also emit an event so that interested systems such as your CRM system or your digital front end could be subscribed to that as well, so that when a customer gets on the phone and the contact center agent is looking at their record within the CRM system, they can see that they've been shaped and the reason for it and things like that. Okay, so let's jump over to our browser. And so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off in the Inomial user interface. And I just wanted to just quickly show you the, I'm assuming that everybody here has seen the Inomial UI already within the previous demos on Monday. This particular customer, John Cash, is our demonstration customer for today. And I just wanted to demonstrate that it is a real customer. We have the digital front end has, prior to accepting the order, has set up this customer within Inomial and an equivalent customer within Telflow. So as we discussed throughout the Telflow POC, our best practice is for that digital front end to initiate that creation of customers prior to accepting the order. So we've created the customer already, and now we're just going to go through and accept the order against that customer and that account, that billing account. Okay. So if we have a quick look in here, we can see that they have 0 subscriptions in there. There's no plans and no transactions against them. Right. So this is really just demonstrating that whilst the customer exists, there's nothing in there other than say some personal details like an email address and so forth. Okay. So if we jump across here, Sam is going to be taking the place of the digital front end today. So we're submitting the orders via a postman message into Telflow. And if we have a look in, we've done that. So if we have a look in the requests, we'll see a new order here for Belong Broadband. We can see that it's for John Cash there. We can see that the order has decomposed into its lower level resources, services and resources. If we just refresh that quickly, then we'll see that the Wi-Fi modem, its provisioning has already been completed. So that might be achieved through a logistics partner like Brightstar, or you might have your own logistics mechanism to do that. The NBN Ethernet service is taking a bit longer to complete because obviously we need to send messages off to NBN to EOMSys. So if we have a look here, if we look at our messages, then we can actually see the messages that have been sent from Telflow to EOMSys. That's the initial request for an NBN service. And then we have an NBN direct request, which is for an appointment, and a response back from NBN with an appropriate appointment time. And then we've got a number of status messages coming back from EOMSys. The final one saying that it's complete, and I can't really even read that, but one of those fields there says complete. Yep, there we go. And then following that, we can see the messages that have been sent from Telflow to Inomial. So this is the message that's been sent off to Inomial billing, and a response from Inomial billing back to Telflow with a subscription ID. That's this UUID down the bottom here, indicating that Inomial has registered that new subscription, assigned it a UUID to uniquely identify that particular subscription. So the reason that that's important is so that if we need to make any changes to that particular service from the inventory, we've got a connection to the billing reference for that particular service. So if, for instance, the customer wants to change their service from a 12 megabit per second connection up to a 50 megabit connection second, there's obviously billing implications with that. So we would apply a change order, and we could pass this particular information, this tag, this identifier to Inomial, so that the subscription could be updated with the new costs or charges. Okay. I did mention before that we would also be sending a comms message at the completion of the order, and so that's not listed as a separate external message, but it is listed here as an event associated with this particular order. So we look at this comms event, we can see that it says job completed. So this is the message that, like your CRM system or your digital front end would be subscribing to, so that they could be updated of the status of this particular order. Okay, so the customer's humming along nicely, and for whatever reason they forget to pay their bill. So if we jump over here into the Inomial, actually no, I'll just show you from the Telflow perspective. So the customer has forgotten to pay their bill, and Brian's going to change the due date on that bill for me to be in the past, so that they are in breach of the policy, and issue a suspend message to Telflow to say we need, a shape message to Telflow, so Telflow can then action that message and send a request onto EOMSys. Now, yeah, I can do that. Subscriptions.
Yep.
So there it is there.
You can also see I've created the invoice and set the due date already. I'm too fast.
So it is currently shaped, okay? And if we jump back into Telflow, I'll just refresh this. These are events that have come being emitted from various systems. So in this case, we've got this shape event that's come in from Telflow. The way that Inomial represents the different shape policies is through an integer, so that's what the number 1 there represents. And we can see that there was a comms event issued as a result of that. So that's an event that the CRM system, the digital front end, would be subscribed to. And we can see the outbound shape response which is going back to Inomial to indicate that the this service has been shaped successfully. Okay. So now, if we come over here, and let me just compress that up. If we have a looking at the Inomial user interface, yeah.
Just to refresh on my one, it says 1. I might need to refresh.
I can refresh the screen. So it says 1 now. Yeah. So you'll notice down here that it says shape completed. Now, let's say the customer rings up. So, I mean, that as far as the POC, scenario 4 for the Inomial POC is required, that's as far as we need to go. I thought we might just take you to the next step. So when the customer has actually paid for their service. So what I'm going to do here is for the, I'm going to find that transaction. So we've got an invoice here. So the customer's called the contact center and decided, yes, I'm going to pay this bill. And so we're going to do a direct debit. No. Direct debit? Which one? The transfer didn't require a lot of input, so I didn't need to type in a whole lot of stuff. So we'll do a direct bank transfer and pay that bill. And so if we looked in the, you'll notice it now says they're in good standing. If we go back over to the account here, it says they're in good standing here. So we could see if we jumped into Telflow, you could see the same, effectively the same messages in Telflow, but with a different numeric value for the shaping. So it's an unshaped request. So the sequence in Telflow looks almost the same, except the message that's emitted is going to say the shaping that the service has been unshaped, so they're back to normal service again.
Yep.
Yes.
And also the graphical representation can be set as well.
So that's really the demo. Have you got any questions for us?
Those steps where there was an outstanding bill and then subsequently it got paid. Is there a listing here in the UI that shows those as sort of like transactions or steps?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So if we have a look in the transactions, we can see the original invoice, and then there's a credit of $73.31. We can, if you can see the details for that. So if the customer rings up and questions the payment or something like that, it's at the hands of the operator, so they can very quickly and easily see this. If you don't want to use the native UI that Inomial provides and you wanted to use your own custom one, you can do that as well. So everything that you see there is effectively accessible through an API. So if you wanted to have your own custom UI that your contact center agents used, then you could do that as well.
They could have gone and paid the bill themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, is there a question there?
Yeah, yes, sorry. Just wanted to know that if, for example, it says that if you don't pay by this due date, or there is a, charge added or something like that. So where in this would it display that if there is a surcharge or something added on top, if it's a late payment and something, needs to be paid by the customer? Is there an option, or is it just that amount? And is the number of days configurable?
Yes. So yes, the number of days is configurable, and also the treatment level. So initially, you might send them an SMS saying if you don't pay within the next day, you're going to be cut off. You might send them an email. You might set a workflow in place to tell an account rep to call them and say it's a huge customer you don't want to just cut off. From that side. So as far as charging them like late fees or extra charges, yes, we typically you don't change that invoice. That invoice has been sent out and it's not been paid, or it's now been paid.
Yep.
Got the comment sent down here of deferred charges. So a deferred charge could be created. Also, I've shown my screen.
Yeah, wrong
You can't
screen.
see my screen. We've got deferred charges down here. So we can add a deferred charge and then that will get wrapped into the next invoice.
Yep.
Or we can raise an invoice specifically for it. So if we, I think you can do it if you want. You can hit raise now.
Where?
Down in the right-hand corner.
Oh, okay, right down there. Okay. I was looking at the wrong screen. I couldn't see it there. Continue.
Yep, so we can raise a, just got my screen where I can see where it comes. Yeah, anyway, you go in and they'll give you a drop down list so you could say extra charge. And this same thing can be used for like if they order a modem or if a service technician had to go out to reconnect them, you can add all of these charges to it. And then either generate an invoice on the fly or
Cool. Thank you.
Just on that, Jess, what's that threshold today? The number of days, like what happens on that first day when the billing cycle gets attempted and let's say it fails when it tries to call Braintree?
Yeah.
It's not straight away, right? It's like is it a couple of days
There's
before?
10 days
10
before
days.
we actually bar them, and then we disconnect them. That's fixed broadband. Mobile's a bit different. There's more stages for mobiles.
Yeah.
One thing to consider as well is that like, once the payment fails, we have different payment treatments as well, so that there are some customers. So it'd be interesting to know if we could classify them
That's a
as
good
part of
question,
in good standing, because some of them will fail because their credit card's expired.
Mhm.
Some will fail due to an interface error, and then there are some that fail because there's not enough
Insufficient funds,
So,
yeah.
so we have different messages. So it'd be interesting to know if we could represent the customers differently based on where they're sitting.
I thought that'd be interesting because it doesn't. Don't we sometimes get undefined message back?
There's a whole host of
Yeah.
different
We had one
messages.
not long ago.
Yeah, that'd be good if we could define a catch-all. Something's not wrong. We don't know exactly what.
Yeah, it's capable of it. I mean, exactly how it works, we can probably put it into the architectural discussion if that's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the good standing button there, they're configurable.
Yeah, they're configurable. The text, the colour.
So you could have you could in terms of simple visualization, you just have if you get a response back of those different types that you described, customize those. That button,
So it's 3 or 4 different uses to rev insufficient funds.
and then in the architectural meeting, so in the architectural meeting you cover off then what the options are as to how you then treat those different things.
Mm-hmm. The other one as well, which we touched briefly on the other day, you see the payment plans. So if the customer comes up and says, look, I know I owe you that money, but I can't pay you. I'll pay you $50 next month and $50 the month after. You put the payment plan in and then that money comes off of the money owed. So therefore the treatment doesn't apply anymore there as well.
And in case of extensions, like if they ask for an extension, what happens then?
You can then manage the payment plan. So you can go and change the payment plan details.
Okay.
Yeah, it says this amount of money, which relates to this invoice, is not subject to treatment.
So what does the status change to where it currently says good standing? What does it change to in that
So
case?
if that was still shaped because they hadn't paid,
Okay.
and then they phoned up and said, look, you've got to pay, and they said, well, I can't. If we put them on a payment plan, then it would basically take that invoice out of the equation and they would go back to good stand.
So within the payment plan, you can actually select how many, for example, you can do it in one go or you can do it in multiple.
So there are actually a couple of different mechanisms. You could do a payment plan, which might be I want to pay it in installments or whatever, or you could just change the due date.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, extension.
Yeah, that's what we demonstrated before.
So you can simply change the due date, and then the system's not going to recognise that money is being
Due
yet.
until.
But is that just for that month or does it change for every month
Just
there?
that month.
And so I can show you that actually. Where are we? Look at
Whereas
that-
if you
that
go
invoice.
if you have a payment plan, instead of that money becoming due on the invoice, the payment plan kind of replaces it. So the payment plan is the thing that's now going to become due, not the original invoice.
So if you're looking at the screen, you can see that I can modify the due date.
Yep.
I mean, this has already been paid now, but if it was still due, we could set it to be sort of in the future sometime or whatever. Okay.
Yep. And then it will automatically change back for the next month.
Yeah, the following month will be their standard anniversary date, whether that's the end of the month or their sign up anniversary.
Yeah.
Then also further to what I just mentioned about at the moment, the rules around sort of like late payment are different for fixed and mobiles.
Mhm.
Is that something we would be able to do here? Because at the moment we can do it because it's in two different platforms, and obviously here it'll be in one. So is there some way to have different sort of handling for sort of like per product basis?
For different product family types,
Yeah.
for instance.
Different
I
plans, I guess, that are a bundle or just a mobile plan.
I mean, I'm not sure if we necessarily even keep that distinction going forward because
it could be really confusing if the
Exactly, yeah.
customers on a bundle would be messaging about one service for one
Exactly,
set of
yeah.
rules. And
because in the future, I almost imagine it'll be one billing account. So there's then no longer necessarily a distinction. But does that have interest? Is that something that's possible?
It is possible to do, and I think you'd probably do that through the policy engine within Inomial.
Okay.
So you can have multiple policies, and the policy engine will make a decision based on some business rules as to which one takes priority. Normally, it's going to be the lowest common denominator sort of rule. So if you have a policy that says when they're in good standing, they get 25 megabits per second. When they have used X number of gigabytes, then they get shaped down to 256 megabits. If they haven't paid their bill, they go down to 64 megabits. And so if all three of those apply, it'll go for the lowest common denominator, that's so 64 kilobits. If they've just exceeded their fair use limit, then they'll come down to 256. That sort of policy decision is what the policy engine is for. And I think that could be used to drive those differences in the way you treat different product types like mobiles versus NBN-based broadbands or ADSL broadbands or whatever.
I think potentially the significant difference will be when we disconnect the service fully. So with fixed broadband, it's a much shorter time frame. With mobiles, we keep the service, the customer can't use it though, but we keep it for, I think it's 3 months so that they don't lose their phone number. So
if they decide afterwards that they want to rejoin, they can retain the same number.
Yeah, so we've tried like 1 month and 2 months essentially for the fixed broadband. So it's where we've done trials as to how long we keep them for. But would that potentially be an option if we kill off the fixed broadband? Because for us, we're incurring a cost to keep that service active.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for mobiles, we have an obligation to keep it a bit longer so we don't lose the number. So
I don't see any problem with
the potential revenue issue if we keep both of them for a longer period because the customer has a mobile service.
Well, I don't see a problem in doing that. I think that's achievable. I mean, we can talk about that further once Mark's back on deck. On how you would actually achieve that, but I think that should be achievable.
And some of that will possibly come down to Telflow as well as to how the decomposition of what's involved. And the time it takes to do
certainly.
it well.
If you're orchestrating those things within Telflow, then you can easily have different paths for different.
For sure.
For different parts of the offer. So, whether probably depends on the solution architecture, on whether you've got that option to do it in Telflow orchestration or whether you need to do it by policy over there.
And I think it's something we'll work out later on. But it's good to know the optionality here.
I guess there's just one other thing with regard to the statuses, because this is essentially the current status of the accounts and what they owe. But do you have the a rating for the customer overall? Because the problem we have, and Rachel attests to this, is that if we have a customer who repeatedly gets disconnected and reconnected, we treat them no differently to a customer who's paid their bill on time for over a year and for some
So,
reason.
like a net value score or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, all of their
Or a credit
histories here.
score.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
Well, it might be beyond just the credit, but because it could be they're a lower rating customer because they're using too much bandwidth every month, right? Month on month on month.
So maybe it's something that we house externally as well, because we've got our data and analytics platform. Maybe it's we pull in different data sources.
So I mean, if you do have something external like that, then both Telflow and Inomial can contribute to that data warehouse, so that you can do those sorts of analytics. No problem at all doing that. That's probably the easiest way from our perspective to provide that score.
Different policies based on the credit score. So if
Yeah.
they've got a really good credit score, don't shake them or don't do something.
Yeah, or if they're a high net worth customer, then
Yeah.
give them some special treatment or something.
Like the example complaint I heard about was a customer who was one of our longest standing customers, and they were on holidays, and so they didn't get the text messages or anything, and yeah, they had paid on time for over a year, and then they got disconnected. Whereas if we might decide to hold those customers for 2 months, based on.
So I think certainly, to be honest, in the long context, I haven't really thought about like how we could solve that, but I think definitely we can solve that. So we should probably capture it as a requirement if you're quite keen. The Telstra's got a version of that, and they built that as a combination of a logic that sits within Seaboard and another platform which they call the credit decision engine. So they put something sort of in the middle where they get the credit score and a whole bunch of other parameters to give you this value, like how good a standing is, have whether or not you have, or one's the score influences it, but also have you been a long-standing customer, have you paid your bills and all that kind of thing. So they have what they call, I think, an established customer. So I think there is a bit of a look where all these systems will contribute and be influenced in a bit of a feedback loop, if that makes sense.
We definitely need that because the customers can not pay their bill. It gets written off. They can call front of house.
And they have no idea that
Front of house are going to go, fantastic, a sale.
Sign you up.
Let's reconnect. And then they don't pay, they complain, it goes to the TIO. It's a cycle, so it would be good to have something to say, hey, this customer been disconnected for non-payment 4 times in 6 months. At least get a month or 2 out of them before we reconnect them or pop up or
A bond or something like that, yeah.
And in fact, one of the outcomes on the Telstra version of it is, it doesn't directly apply for us, but they have the MROs. There's a limit on how many postpaid mobiles you can have simultaneously. So even if you're in very good standing, generally the limit's like about 5. But the rules can make it 3 or 0 or 1.
maybe
For us, might be something equivalent, won't be MROs, but it could be like number of active mobile services.
they can only have the rules
Yeah, exactly.
plan off it or something.
Yeah.
And
Or maybe customers with good, payment history, they can have an unlimited number. But if you have bad, then we can't let you have 100 mobile services. Maybe we'll give you a couple. But.
So often with those sorts of customer value analysis capabilities, they often take into account much more than just billing history and payment history. So they'll often take into account how much they've ordered over a rolling 1-year basis or something like that. Might take into account like a social media rating, right? If they are seen as an influencer amongst a larger community of your customers, then that can contribute to that rating as well. So this you kind of need to draw a boundary around how far do you want to go, but you could go a very long way in building out those sorts of customer scoring systems.
So it might be something that's not in our first set of releases, but we'll sort of think about if we want to introduce it and then put it into like a later one. But yeah, sort of also going back to, I think our version of it would be very different from Telstra's because they're looking at, we have MROs as an actual proper financial
dollar amount,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it could be
You give them a mobile phone and they
$100.
run away with it.
Yeah. So I think from a very basic level perspective, we could quite easily within the billing system show that that the customer has like a at-risk rating or something like that because of this past history. I don't think that's going to be a problem to show that, but it's obviously not going to take into account other external factors. It's just going to be the billing history. Sorry?
Not a bad cutout. Previous.
Good, bad.
Yeah.
Problems.
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
said
so-
Is that where they got lost?
Yeah.
It wasn't there originally, was it?
no, I just said just the before,
Okay.
but that really just a visual indicator, like you've all been discussing, the logic around it, and that probably.
Is it free text notes or is that like a label?
No, it's free text.
Okay.
Yeah, it's free text, so you can say, well, no,
Could
this
be
person said
calculated.
they'll phone back in 5 days' time to email their receiving or something
But
like
even
that.
if the words say written off for a bad debt, at the time, before you even sign them up, a pop-up, you know, they put the date of birth and their name in.
Yeah.
A pop-up.
Existing customer, this is their past account.
Yeah.
Don't proceed unless you can do it. Half.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just. try and
$500 bond off them or
something.
something.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you do find customers, you do get customers like.
Of course, yeah.
What's these options down the bottom? So there's reverse and there's, what is it, select stationery? What are these about?
So from here, am I in? I could print an invoice, for instance.
Okay. That's just selecting it, how it appears essentially.
Right. So I mean, obviously this isn't customized for Belong, but a sample invoice with the correct dates and due dates and so forth, and the bill in correct format for Australian customers.
So he's raised an invoice as of today for everything that's due up to today.
Yep.
Yeah, we're doing that.
Or we could reopen the invoice and change it. We can reopen it and unapprove it.
So reopen would be maybe to adjust the cost that was on there, because I saw that there was the option to delete before as well, but I would assume that that charge will get up. Yeah.
So, for instance, in the like, if we look at the bank transfer, for instance, right? If let's say we didn't do that by bank transfer, it was done through a check, and the check bounced. Okay, so we either want to reverse that transaction or delete it. Probably reverse it, so you've got a record that you had a bounced check there. So here's the reverse.
Refund, or is that a different concept? So say we wanted to refund the transaction.
Yeah, we got two components of that. So one's actually generating the credit to the account, and the second part's the actual giving the money back to the customer. So from the account screen,
I'm just doing the reversal. General.
There's a lot of these things being locked for certain profiles. So, for example, front of house can't have the ability to delete.
Yeah, they possibly can't raise invoices or things like that. Yeah.
So
There's
you go to
a huge number of different permissions.
No, but it's on account on the menu.
Can't remember the exact
Got
number.
reimbursement.
The current, and we've got to work through it, but
Where is it?
just
Oh, yeah.
the general billing stuff would be available.
Fourth one from the top.
CRM, that'd be just a view of.
Oh,
But
new
then,
reimbursement,
and
right?
in advance, a set of users would be able to go and do some stuff in here, and then
Data level or something.
Yeah. So we've locked it down, but then we'd like to think majority probably don't even come into the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
just have a view of
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
CRM.
So
Yeah, so this is a reimbursement is the concept of actually giving the money back to the customer.
So let's say you because something happened through no fault of the customer, and you decided you're going to reimburse part of their bill or something like that. You can put that in here. We could put in, like, say, give them $50 off their bill or something.
And I guess for us in real life, our payments all go through Braintree. So behind this, because obviously we've got to build that integration with Braintree when we do this for real. So even the return payment would go down that path, right? So I assume that when we go to the screen, it would trigger I'm not sure if it's the same API or a different API, but the way to tell Braintree that this is a refund.
So is Braintree being used for your direct bank transfer payments as well, or is it just credit cards?
We don't offer that, so you can
Okay.
set up an agreement with PayPal, which if you wanted to use a bank account, you would use the bank account in PayPal.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's, so that structure is it's everything through Braintree, credit card registered on Braintree, or anything registered under PayPal. And if it's within PayPal, we don't see what's inside of it, but yes, it can be the bank account of the same, and there's no other options at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I guess that's the key thing at the moment, because I shouldn't rule out. It's not like we're restricting ourselves from offering that in future, because there was this principle about simplicity and removing all the complexity we have in managing our payments. But in some ways, that adds complexity because customers may only have a bank account and not have PayPal. So we don't want to make them get a PayPal account. So I should just indicate that we're not necessarily going to look at that.
Okay.
But I guess for this particular scenario, so let's say it is still Braintree, something within Braintree. Would this be another? Is this something we'd have to do a special configuration for to link it up to this?
No,
or is it sort of automatic?
so as part of the configuration with Braintree to register payments, the other side of that is being able to send reimbursements or refunds. As well, so it's
done all in one go as part of the integration.
It's the same integration effectively. It's just a negative amount rather than a positive amount. That's all.
Yeah. And when you've done that refund, if you look on the bill, when you wrote whatever you wrote, does that appear on the bill? What you wrote in the comment?
I don't know.
On the bill.
So when you do a refund, there's a little thing to put a comment. So whatever comment you write, does that appear on the bill or? Like next to the refund?
Yeah, it can do. It's the actual layout of the invoice is configurable, so you can basically specify what fields or what information is going to go where.
Unless you then within Braintree or PayPal itself.
No.
There's a pre-case bill
Yeah. So
transaction. Sorry, is that the one you speak?
So this text that I keyed in some reason, right? Could that be on the bill?
Yeah, would that, whatever you type in, would that be on the bill?
Yeah, could be, if you want it to be. You don't have to.
Could you have an internal and the next to the comment? Maybe.
I'm sure we could do something like that.
Have like a vanity and a real reason behind it.
Yeah.
Oh no, you'd be amazed at what some people can write.
Anything you can
Doing their refunds and, yeah, so even if there was a drop down or something for some different scenarios why you would refund as per complaint or whatever, it would appear on the bill so there's no clear texting.
I'm sure we can do something.
We've got a few things like we've got custom fields can be added to any type of element. We might use those, but the best way to do it will obviously come out of the solution design.
Also for the status, I'm talking about how this shaped and it's configurable, you can add new values. Is that effectively like a little state machine? Is it actually transitioning between particular nodes on the state machine, or is it just here's a list of things that it can be, and there's some separate logic to set it into each of the states?
So it's based, like Mark was saying the other day, it's based on the amount owed by the customer, but and the age of and the conditions of that debt.
Okay.
But yeah, you probably could consider it as a state machine.
Okay. And it's single value, right? So I'm just wondering what would happen is, let's say they're shaped and then they did something worse and had to suspend it.
Yep.
Then does one override the other, or would it show both?
It does have a hierarchy. I think it shows the worst.
Okay.
So like the policy engine effectively.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, did we also have, was Renato dialed in?
Somebody was.
Because offline, I know he had some questions, but he's not online now.
No,
he's
it's not.
Tomorrow, that's all
it's
right.
not there.
Yeah, don't.
There's a question on deleting transactions as well. So is that for if we've accidentally added something? That's why you would delete something. Because an issue we have at the moment is if someone applies an incorrect charge or credit on an account, we can't actually remove it. So let's just say they make a typo. So what the customer sees is one credit and then a debit to balance it out if they put an extra zero on or something like that. So then that was not a good look for the customer. But with this, I take it we could just remove the incorrectly entered transaction because it's not a real transaction against the customer anyway. If it's a credit where they put in the wrong amount, correct it.
Yeah, and depending on what time. So if it's the invoices go through pretty much the state of being a to be invoice. So all of the information there, it hasn't actually been created as an invoice yet, to an unapproved invoice, and then to an approved invoice, which is then dispatched and due. At any point, you can reverse those back. So obviously, in your case, with the volume of customers, the approval process is probably going to be automatic. Some other customers, they just do a visual run through and you sort of like scan through, does everything look right? Oh, this one's for $7 million. That doesn't quite look right. And then you can open that one,
Got a problem there.
change that, regenerate the invoice.
Or it's like what if they realise they add the credit, they realise straight away, then a team leader or something can come through and fix it up and put the tax on before anything's generated.
Yeah, and there's an audit of that as well.
Okay, cool. So it's still traceable.
It's still traceable,
but
yeah.
will the customer know about it?
No, the customer would never know.
They wouldn't see it on their invoice.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions?
Just maybe more of a technical one. We have a requirement which was, I can't remember if I've raised it before, but for a privacy logging, which is more to do with when an agent comes to these user interfaces and there's a lot of data underneath there, such as the customer details, we need to be able to log externally each time a search is done. So is that something that would need some customization, or is that something that is maybe out of the box through the APIs? Or is that something that maybe you need to think about a bit more?
So the event logs gives you a view of like who's searched and things like that.
Okay.
Making it externally available would probably be a bit of a solution design thing.
Sure.
Whether we push it via the message bus, whether you query it as you need.
Yeah.
Depending on the use case.
Sure.
Obviously, if we push it by the message bus, it's going to be quite a lot of information flowing.
Yeah. And it may not need to be real time. We usually require just more for regulatory purposes that we've got that record.
Yeah.
So in case someone who was an actual belong agent was doing something dodgy, like searching like an ex-girlfriend or something, that was recorded and we could get look it up afterwards. So we'd probably put that in. We've got a specific platform which is actually called the DLR platform, and somehow we just need to get that data in there, whether it's a batch feed or
Look, I'm confident that we could get that data in there. I think it's really a matter of solution designers to figure out what the best way to do that is going to be. Yeah, and which events, because there's probably a lot there that you don't necessarily need.
Yeah.
But searches where you're displaying, say, private information for customers, any value transactions, you probably want to log all of those.
Yep.
But less or more benign sort of interactions, you may not necessarily need to.
Because I think one distinction also is this is only for agents logging into the API. So it's not every access into the database. So customers, doing self-service, they're doing it anyway, see their own details, but it will probably show up as an event. Whereas this would be like, Andrew Jack's logging on behalf of Belong, and you can see everything. So that one is the one that's...
So, I mean, the thing to remember here is that I am an administrator here, right? So you can see it all. Right? Different. There are different levels of access, so which would restrict what I get to see depending on my role as well.
But it's and I was just coming to Enzo's point where it's just subscribing to very specific events in a specific context. And those are the ones that grab those, put those in this PLR platform.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your attention this afternoon. I hope everybody's happy and satisfies your curiosity. The next showcase on Friday, we'll do a more brief version of this and the other two scenarios that you saw on Monday, and we'll show you the doing the bill run as well, and we'll, like I said, we should have by that stage all of those events and customers and everything loaded into Inomial by that stage. So it'll be a more representative of a real-time run.
Great. All right.
Terrific.
All right,
Thanks for your attention. Thanks for coming.